let's make an apron. You'll need some fabric and scissors and a tape measure. All right, we're gonna start by deciding how big we want our apron. So I'm gonna take the longest measurement, which is gonna be this bottom one here. In this case, I don't want it the exact same size as the apron I have on. I'm gonna do it 2 inches shorter. So in total, my apron would measure 28.5, but I want 2 inches less on this side and 2 inches less on this side. So I'd be left with 24 inches. And then later I will add in seam allowance. And then I will measure from the top to where I want it to go. And on this one, I want it to be about 2 fingers less than what the apron actually is. So it would be 31 inches. So now I'm gonna go ahead and take my fabric and I'm gonna fold it 24 by 31. All right, this is my fabric. Let's say I leave an inch of seam allowance so that I can fold it over twice. So a 1/2 inch. I'm gonna do a serged edge and then I'll fold it over once and I'll fold it over twice for my seams. So I'm gonna leave an inch of seam allowance on each edge. We said that we wanted 24 for the widest part. So 24 plus an inch on either side for seam allowance, it gives me 26 inches in total. So I'm just gonna go ahead and fold it over that way. When I cut it, I will have a nice big strip of fabric on this end and I won't end up with 2 cut strips on this end. That way we can better use the fabric later. So 26 inches is right here. And since I don't want any seams in the top of the apron, I'm just gonna fold it in half because that's gonna be the half of our apron. All right, so I've got my fabric folded and I see that my fabric is not very well cut, so I'm actually going to measure it on this end because it's the smaller side, because they did not cut it straight at the fabric store. They never do. So I want to have 26 or half of 26, which would be 13 inches. So I'll be right about there. I'm gonna grab some pins and pin it down to make sure that it doesn't move while I cut it. Let me just make sure that it measures 13 across all of the edges. I'm gonna add a few more pins so it doesn't move on me. Now from the top, we wanted to have 31 inches. Plus I'm gonna want an inch on the top and an inch on the bottom to do the hem and the top hem. So that would leave me with 33. All right, so I've got 33 down here and I'm just gonna go ahead and cut along this line. Now what I need is the curve of the top of the apron. On this one, I want it to be a little bit more covered. I'm gonna make the curve a little bit bigger. I'm gonna position this as a pattern. I'm gonna use some chalk to mark where I want it to end. The end point is good and the beginning point is good. And I'm just going to make the curve a little less curved. All right, so that's more or less my curve. And now when I cut it out, I'm gonna leave another inch, a little bit less because this is a curve, so that I can do the hem later. Okay, and now I'm gonna go ahead and cut down this line to where I cut it earlier. And then basically we will have our apron. We'll just need to do the straps, the hems, and that's pretty much it. Alright, now I've got that cut out. So I've got my top part. My sides is a lot more coverage than the original apron. And my sides go a little bit less to the back. Alright, now that I have the apron, I'm gonna go ahead and cut the straps for it to tie it around. Okay, for the straps, we're gonna go ahead and cut 2 pieces. They're gonna be 40 inches. Because I want each strap to be 40 long. And I'm gonna add an extra inch so I can tuck in the ends at the end. And then I want them to be 2.5 inches wide. That way when I fold it over and I do this serger seam on it, and then I turn it right side out, then I will end up with 2 1-inch sides. So let me mark 41 inches here, and it's gonna be 41 by 2.5. We marked it with our chalk, and I'm going to mark it up here at the top as well. I'm going to draw a line, and I'm just going to mark it more or less so you can cut it. Alright, now that I've got my line marked, I'm going to go ahead and cut it out. Alright, so this is going to be one of our straps. We're going to fold it in half, and we're going to serge one edge, and then we'll pull it right side out, and we'll top stitch it. And so that's one of our straps, and I need a second one. So I'm going to go ahead and use this as my pattern now, and cut a second piece. To make it more even, you could pin this down. That would be smart. Okay, so now I have the strap of the apron measured out to how long I want it to be. So I'm going to go ahead and measure that, and then I will cut pieces that are going to be also 2.5 inches wide, because I want it to be the same size as my straps, and then however long I need this one to be. So I'm just going to walk my tape measure around it. So that would be 19.5 inches. And I'm going to put it at 20, that way I have room to tuck in my ends at the end. And I just need one of these for my strap. I'm just going to go ahead and mark it at 20. And then I'm going to say 2.5 inches wide. There we go. And then I'm just going to mark a short line. The strap piece. And we're just going to do the same with that with the straps to tie it. We're going to serge along the edge, turn it right side out, and top stitch. Okay, so now we've got all the pieces of the apron. We've got the body part. My straps are going to go around, and my strap for the neck. Now that we have all of our pieces cut out, we're going to go ahead and serge the edges. First, I'm going to serge the neck piece. So now we have the neck strap serged. We're going to go ahead and serge the straps to tie around our waist. Now that we have both of our tie straps serged on the edges, and our head strap serged on the edges, we're going to go ahead and serge all the edges of the apron. Now that I have all the edges serged, I'm just going to use a small crochet hook to tuck in the ends of my serger strings. Okay, now I'm going to use a safety pin to turn the straps inside out. I'm just going to open it, stick it twice through my fabric, close it, and then I will just stick the safety pin inside itself, and I will go ahead and proceed to turn it inside out. Be careful that the safety pin doesn't open up on you. Otherwise, it's pretty straightforward to turn it inside out with a safety pin. All right, so now we have the piece turned all the way inside out. We're gonna take out our safety pin. And now with regular pins, I'm gonna go ahead and stretch out these two edges where the serger is at to lay it flat. And you'll see the line where it was stitched at. And I'm gonna go ahead and put pins in it there so that it will stay flat. Because now I'm gonna go ahead and top stitch over all of it so that it won't be like a bubble, but it will lay flat. Just be careful that you do get all of the fabric when you're going to pin. That way you don't end up with fabric tucked inside. So you should have your inch that was your width. Or if it was bigger or smaller, you should have that width. I just pull it out and pin it. All right, we're coming to the end here. And on the ends, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and tuck the end into itself. That way we can top stitch over it too and it won't be sticking out. And you also wanna do that with the beginning end. I didn't do that, but I will go back and do that here in a second. And just tuck them in on itself and then it'll be a nice edge and we'll just top stitch over it. And we'll do the same on this one. We're just gonna tuck the ends in onto itself. You don't need to do too much, but you do need to make sure that you're gonna be able to catch it with the sewing machine. Otherwise it will just pop out again. Once you have it looking nice, just go ahead and pin it. Okay. So now we've got this whole edge serged, turned out, and pinned, ready to sew a top stitch on there. Now we're just gonna go ahead and do the same thing with the strap and with the neck strap. All right, once we have all three of our straps pinned, we're gonna go ahead and top stitch this corner and all along this straight edge on all three pieces. Just gonna line it up with this mark right here on the sewing machine. Just be careful on the quarter, just leave your, and you can go ahead and do a pivot to turn, and then we're just gonna sew all along this edge here. Once we get to the edge, we're gonna do the same thing. We're just gonna pivot and sew this side as well. With your needle down, lift up the presser foot, pivot, and we'll sew right here. Be careful, you might have a little bit of issues because it's kind of bulky. I think now we're good. And I'm just gonna back stitch here. And that's it. Alright, so now I've got that corner nicely sewn and all along that edge. All the way to my other corner. It's also nice and neat there for me. Now let's go ahead and do the last two pieces. Now for the last one. Alright, now that we have all 3 of our straps sewn and top stitched, we're going to go ahead and take the head strap and we're going to put it onto our apron. And we're going to do that. This is the top of the apron. We're going to measure 1.5 inches, and that's where we're going to put our first hook of the strap. And I'm just going to put it right there. And I'm going to do a stitch so that it won't come out. Alright, now that we have that first stitch on there so that this won't come off, later we're going to fold it over twice to cover up our serger seam. We're going to fold it over twice, and also to give it more sturdy, we're going to sew another top stitch on here, and then we will eventually fold this back and sew another stitch on there to make sure that that is nice and sturdy. But for now, we want to sew on the other side. Just gonna make sure it's gonna sit nice. We also want to measure 3 centimeters, so it's gonna be the same on either side, which is about 1.5 inches. Right there. I'm just gonna hold on to it and take it to the sewing machine. Alright, now we got that sewed on here a little bit. We're just gonna try it on again. Alright. Looks good. Alright, now that we have the top strap sewn on, we just want to make sure to look and see where it's at. If it's folded on this side, then we're going to go ahead and take one of our side seams and we're going to fold it to the front, like where this is not attached. And you're just going to fold it over like the seam allowance from the serged edge, like that. And we're just going to fold it over, do that all the way down this curve and top stitch it. Alright, so I've got my edge folded over twice here. I'm just gonna stick it in my machine. And again, use that same edge to guide me. And we're just gonna give it a nice top stitch, and as we go, we're gonna go folding the hem underneath it. Alright, so now we have that nice and top stitched. We're just gonna go ahead and do the exact same thing on the other side. We're gonna fold it back towards this edge twice, and we're gonna top stitch on top. Alright, so now I've got these sides nicely finished. The curved sides. My top still needs to be finished, and so do these sides and the bottom hem. So I'm just going to go ahead and start with the side hems, and then I will do the other side hem, and then the bottom hem. So I'm just going to look and see where I have that nice curved side, and I will just do the same thing. I'm just going to fold it in twice, like that. This corner is going to be a little bit bulky, so be careful when you're going over the sewing machine. On our side at the top, close to the curved edge, is where we're going to attach our strap. We're going to attach it the same way that we attach the strap to the top part of the apron, which is that it's going to be facing the nice side out, and we're just going to do a straight stitch on top of it, and then later we'll fold it back twice. So So on this one, we're gonna do the same thing. I accidentally finished my edge before I put the strap on, but I'm gonna show you. Before we do that side, we're gonna go ahead, and this is the front where my nice seam is at. I had to take out a few stitches on there, so it doesn't look very nice right now. But we're just gonna put this on top of that seam allowance, and we're gonna do a straight stitch, just right like at the edge. Like I said, it would be easiest to do this before you start sewing that side, but if you forget like I did, no worries, just take out your stitches and stitch it on. Alright, pretty simple. So now we've got that stitched on, and we're just gonna take the whole thing, we're gonna fold it over and do what we did earlier, which was to finish that stitch up here. And it's just gonna look like that on the other side. It's gonna get folded over twice, so we're gonna run a stitch along here, and then here in a second we're gonna fold it back again, and we're gonna stitch on top of that. So let's do this stitch first. Alright, so now we got that stitched on there. Alright, now that that's done, I'm gonna fold this back. I'm just gonna look at the other one to see how far it went back and match it up to make sure that they're equal. Yep, they look pretty good. And I'm just gonna do a square on there. Alright, we've got our side straps nicely sewn on here. Now we're gonna go ahead and do the front strap. So it's literally just the same thing. This is the right side with the strap on it. We're gonna fold it over twice. Like that. We're gonna sew it down on that edge, and then we'll go back and do a square on top of it. Alright, so we've got that edge nicely done right here, and now we're just gonna fold this back and do a stitch on there. On this top one, I just did a straight stitch, but you could go ahead and fold it a little bit less, leaving more room down here, and you could do a square as well. But I am going to do another top stitch right there. Right, so it's nice and sturdy. Now I'm just going to do the other side, and then we're done. Alright, now that we've done all that, our apron is finished. And I think it looks pretty good. You can leave extra fabric in the back so that this covers you a little more or a little bit less, however you want it. You can also cut this a little bit wider so that it doesn't cover you quite as much, or you can do the curve even a little bit less shallow, however you want. That's up to you. And this, I did it so that you can tie it around at least all the way to the front, but you can also do it shorter so that you can just tie it in the back. That's totally up to you. And this strap, it's not adjustable. I just did it so that it fits me. But you can also do that with an adjustable piece on it that makes the strap longer. But this is just your simple apron.